In this video, we are going to focus on quadratic equations. You will find this on page 141 in the Namibian Ordinary Level Mathematics textbook, y equals mx plus c to success. Quadratic equations. A quadratic equation is a polynomial equation of the second degree, so it has at least one variable squared, such as x to the power of 2. So y equals x squared minus x minus 2 is a quadratic equation, and this makes it a quadratic, that little 2. If it's showing upwards the legs or downwards shaped, okay, so this, the upwards or downwards shaped graph of a quadratic graph is called a parabola. So it will look like this. We will first solve quadratic equations algebraically. In chapter 6, this is chapter 4, so in chapter 6 we will solve quadratic equations by making use of a graph. So this is the graph of a quadratic equation. Now, how do we solve quadratic equations? There are several algebraic methods you can use to solve a quadratic equation. By factorization, by completing the square, by the quadratic formula. And in this video, we are going to focus more on the factorization method. All methods start with setting the equation to 0. This is very important because you want to see where it cuts the x-axis, and where it cuts the x-axis, the value of y will be 0. So by substituting y equals 0 into the quadratic equation, it becomes an equation in one unknown, okay, because the y is now away, unknown x, where a, b and c are constants and a cannot be equal to 0 because then that term will disappear. There are usually two solutions to a quadratic equation, not always, but usually it will cut at the x-axis at two places. Okay, so in this video we are going to focus on solve quadratic equation by factorization. This method will use the property of multiplying real numbers by 0. If two real numbers p and q are such that p times q equals 0, then either p is 0 or q is 0, or both p and q are equal to 0. Okay, let's look at an example. Solve each of the following equations. Now in this case, it's almost, and I want to use a pen to show you, it's almost like that x in front is also in a bracket. So it's actually that p times q equals 0. So it's either this bracket, that's 0, or this bracket, that will be 0. And that's what I'm writing there. So then I just solve the two linear equations. So x is 0. And if this negative 1 goes over, then x is equal to 1. So use the property of multiplying by 0. And then the two brackets, do you see? And then it's either this equals 0 or this equals 0. Okay, and then I just solve 2x equals 3, divide 2, and I get 1.5. And x is equal to negative 3. It goes over. Okay, I want you to stop the video and I want you to try now 20, just do number A and number F. You can continue the video as soon as you are finished. Okay, let's start. So if I look at number A, then it's going to be x bracket x plus 2 is equal to 0. So remember, it's almost like there's also a bracket. So it's either x equals 0 or that x plus 2, that will be equal to 0. So therefore, x will be equal to 0 or x is equal to negative 2. And it's almost like that quadratic equation cuts the x-axis at 0 and at negative 2. That's what it's meaning. But we will see that when we in chapter 6 when we do graphs. And then number F, try not 20, number A, and then number F. Okay, in number F, it's now already the two brackets. So it's either x plus 2, which is equal to 0, or 3x minus 1, which is equal to 0. So x is equal to negative 2, or, and it's 3x equals 1, divide 3, x is a third. So therefore, and I just repeat what I'm actually saying there on top, x is equal to negative 2, or x is equal to a third. So this quadratic equation cut the x-axis at negative 2 and at a third. Okay, that was easy. Let's just go on to the next one. Solve each of the following equations. Now, in this case, you must first factorize on this side, on the left-hand side. So in this, remember factorization, how many factorizations did we get? This was just taking out a highest common factor. This will be difference between two squares. This is a trinomial. Usually it's not grouping. And this is also a trinomial. So first, factorize. If you cannot remember factorize, go back to the videos of chapter 3 and first do revision of factorization. So take out a common factor, that's what I did there. And then this is equal to 0, and this is also equal to 0. I divide 4, so x is 0, or x is a half. Difference between two squares, two brackets, 1 minus, 1 plus, take the square root x, take the square root 4. And that's exactly the same. Then put that bracket equals 0, that bracket equals 0, and solve it, and it will cut the x-axis at 4 and at negative 4. This is a trinomial, and can you remember what we always do? This is in group A. So your factors will be 3 and 2, 4 and 1. In group A, we add the cross product. Okay, so 8 plus 3, that will give me that 11. The signs are the same, and both take the sign of the middle, plus, plus. And then form your bracket, Put it equals 0, solve it, then you get x is minus 1 and a third, and x is negative a half. And then this one, can you see there? This one is in group B. So basically, again, my factors 1 and 2, 5 and 3. So this is 10 minus 3, that will be equal to 7. And then the biggest over cross product will get that positive, and the other one a negative, and xx. So this is my first, this is my second. Put everyone equal to 0, and then I will get x is negative 5, or x is 1.5. Easy, but you must be able to do factorization. Okay, I want you to stop the video. And let's see if we can also choose one of everyone. So just do number A, do number B, and do number F, and the final one we can say is number I. You can continue the video as soon as you are finished. Okay, this is try now 21. Okay, I start with number A. So it's 3x squared minus 9x equals 0. Can you see it's a quadratic equation? And you must solve it. Find the values of x. See where this graph will cut the x-axis. So take out 3x as a common factor. If you divide, you get x minus 3 is equal to 0. So 3x equals 0, or x minus 3 equals 0. So I divide 3, I divide 3. X is equal to 0, or x is equal to 3. And that's your final answer. Okay. Then number B. Okay, if we look at number B. Okay, this is difference between two squares. So I just make my two brackets. In one plus, in one minus, take the square root, 3x, take the square root, 1. Repeat in the same things, put it equal to 0. Then put this bracket equals 0, or put this bracket equals 0. So then it's 3x equals negative 1. This will be 3x equals positive 1. I divide 3, I divide 3. I divide 3, I divide 3. So x is equal to minus a third, or x is equal to 1 over 3. And that's my final answer. Okay, I'm going to make space. Okay, let's do the next one, number F. This is x squared minus 8x. Can you see it's a trinomial? Okay, and can you also see that it's in group A? And then this is going to be 1, okay, I want to take another color, 1 and 1, and this is going to be 6 and 2. And group A, the signs are the same, and both will be negative. And there's x, and there's x. And then this will be x minus 6, x minus 2, and that's equal to 0. And then put this bracket equal to 0, or, so it was either this or this one that was 0, in order to get the 0 there. Or x minus 2 equals 0. So therefore, x is equal to 6, or x is equal to 2. Okay, and now the final one, if number I. So this is 6x squared plus 17x minus 3 equals 0. Okay, this is in group, this is a trinomial, and it's in group B. So what am I doing with the factor pairs? I'm going to cross multiply and I'm going to subtract. And again, try a few out. Say 2 and 3. You don't have to test everyone. And say, I think that is going to be too small, because it's 17. So make it 1 and 6, and make it 3 and 1, because that will give you 18 minus 1, because it's group B, I subtract, and that will give me 17. And the biggest over cross product will get that sign, and the other one will get the opposite. So that will be x, x. So what will I get? I will get x plus 3, 6x minus 1. So I will get x plus 3 equals 0, or 6x minus 1 is equal to 0. So therefore, x will be negative 3, or if I take this over, this will be 6x equals 1, divide 6, divide 6, so x is equal to 1 over 6. And that will be my final answer. Okay, let's look at another example. Solve each of the following equations. Now, in this case, there's not a zero. That's the problem. In the previous case, there was a zero, so I could have just go already and put it equal to zero. So in this case, I must do the long way. I must multiply everything out, take all the terms to one side, then I start factorizing, and then I can put it equal to zero. The same here. First multiply out, take over, then factorize, and I get my answer. I want you to stop the video, and I just want you to do number A. You can continue the video as soon as you are. Do for me number A, because A is more complicated. And then I want you also, because to do for me number H. That's the two. Okay, stop the video, continue the video as soon as you are finished. Okay, so take everything to one side. So I think just take it to that side. Okay, it's already equal 0. And now you can just factorize. Now, if you factorize that, it's in group, can you see, B? So in this case, it's going to be 3 and 1 and 2 and 1, because 6 minus 1 is 5. The biggest over cross product, get that negative, and this is the positive, and x, x. So this will be 3x plus 1, x minus 2. So 3x plus 1 equals 0, or x minus 2 equals 0. So in this case, I will get 3x equals negative 1, x equals 2. I divide 3, I divide 3. So therefore, x is minus a third, or x is equal to 2. Okay, I'm just going to make space for number H. So if I look at number H, so it's x minus 2, x plus 4 equals 27. Now, because it's not equal to 0, you cannot put this equal to 27. The whole thing is, there must be a 0. So you first have to multiply out, you have to bring over, you have to factorize, then you can put it equal to 0. So in this case, let's multiply out. So this will be x squared plus 4x minus 2x minus 8. Bring the 27 over, put it equal 0. So this will be x squared plus, okay, this is your like terms, 2x, and in this case it's going to be negative 35, and that will be equal to 0. Okay, then I factorize, and remember, it's in group B. Do you see that? There's a 1, so let's see 1 and 1, and in this case 5 and 7. Because 7 minus 5, it's subtract, it's group B, that will give you that 2. And the biggest over cross product will get that positive, and that will get a negative. And then it's x, x. So I will get x minus 5, x plus 7, and that's equal to 0. So, and then again, x minus 5 is equal to 0, or x plus 7 is equal to 0. So therefore, x is 5, or x is negative 7. And that's your final answer. Okay, let's look at the last one in this video. Okay, this is now a bit the other way around, so let's just look. Find the quadratic equation in x whose roots, that means the answers of x, are 5 and negative a half. So forming an equation with the given roots in the reverse is the reverse process of solving an equation. So x is 5 and x is negative a half. So basically I'm just going to make, so I get 2x equals negative 1, take it over, and I get this. And now I write and take x equals 5, take it over, so you must get a 0 there. And then you can form your two brackets. And then you multiply out and you get your quadratic equation. Okay, this is also very important so that you'll be able to work back to that, especially in the next level of mathematics. Okay, so let's just stop the video. It's a bit more thinking, but let's try number D. You can continue the video as soon as you are finished. Okay, so let's start. Number D. So the roots is -2 and 3/4. So it's actually x is -2. That was the final answers. But now I have to take it back. So this one is easy. It's just become a positive on the other side. This one, okay, it's actually good if you first make it a fraction, cross multiply. Then you get 4x equals 3. Now take it over to the other side and get to 0. And now you have your two brackets. Do you see? Because you have 0, 0. So it will be x plus 2. Let's just get it correct. And 4x minus 3, and that's 0. And then you just multiply out, and you're going to get 4x squared minus 3x plus 8x minus 6 equals 0. So it's 4x squared plus 5x minus 6. And that will be your final answer. Plus 5 minus 6. So that is your quadratic equation. That is the reverse process. Usually they give you this and they say solve it, then they want you to get this. But be able also to do the reverse.